This squishy sludge of coconut waste could hold an answer to a deadly problem. Alhaji Siraj Ba spent months of trial and error developing his recipe for cooking fuel, made out of coconut shells instead of trees.
I was like, it's either it works or it works. It needs to work, so I need to do everything for it to work.
He lost his adoptive family in a mudslide when he was 17. Before that, he spent years living on the streets, dreaming of the day he could launch his own business.
Briquettes help prevent deforestation because they are produced from biomass waste. They are not produced from wood.
He lives in a part of Sierra Leone that has lost 70% of its forest cover over the last 5 decades. One reason for deforestation is people chopping down trees to feed their stoves. Tree roots are essential to holding back the earth during increasingly intense storms.
You move from having lush green mountains to dark brown death traps.
The question now is, can Alhaji convince people in Freetown to swap wood-based charcoal for coconut briquettes? We went to Sierra Leone to see how this young entrepreneur is saving trees using worldwide waste. Coconuts are one of Freetown's favorite on-the-go snacks. Vendors end the day stuck with heaps of shells that they need to get rid of somehow, and that costs money.
This was supposed to be waste. They needed to pay transport to dump this thing. Now I'm going to pick it up for free.
Alhaji says his company, Roxal Trading, collects about 2 metric tons of coconut waste per week. He's aiming for 10 tons by the end of 2022.
So this is the backbone of our products. This is wealth for us.
Workers clean the husks and shells and dry them for about a week. Next, they fire them inside this steel drum.
It carbonized for like 3-4 hours. We put the fire out using water. We have to wait for them to get dried.
They pulverize the charred coconuts into a fine powder and add water plus a secret ingredient to bind it all together.
The mixing is very challenging, so the whole process depends on the mix. A slight mistake on the formula, you have to start all over again.
The extruder pushes out slimy rectangular logs that will need to dry for 3 to 4 days. These ones are destined for shisha pipes. In fact, people who smoke hookah are his best customers these days. Roxal Trading can produce about 0.5 metric ton of briquettes in a day, and they bring in as much as $4,500 on a good month.
We are the best-selling briquette. You can find our briquette in most of the supermarkets in town.
They go for 70 cents per kilogram. That's 4 times more expensive than the common wood-based charcoal, but they burn at least 4 times as long. Alhaji's next big challenge is to grow his sales to reach people who will use his coconut briquettes for cooking fuel instead of cutting down trees.
It's not easy, but it takes time. It's very tough to build something great. If it was not tough, everybody would have done it, so.
He has 10 full-time employees and up to 40 part-timers, depending on the season.
When my picky make me headache.
And about 1.5 years ago, he expanded his business. Roxal Trading raises and sells chickens, too. His mother says he's wanted to be an entrepreneur since he was a kid.
All day, they look Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, we get Facebook. The man will get the man will get money pass all man. Not only they only say they watch, and they get money. All is from me.
But that all felt very far away when Alhaji suddenly became the breadwinner for his family at age 12.
We man die left pass bokuti pass on me. Only wish they say, Mama, I forget money. If I get 22, 23, I forget money. I for pull you and pull. I for pull you and suffer.
He left his village, hoping to make money to send home to his mother and sister.
I was just this kid who wanted to become somebody, but I was not thinking straight. I thought that it is just okay for me to move to Freetown, so without thinking about where am I gonna stay, who's gonna feed me, who's gonna take care of me, but I moved.
He lived on the streets for 4 years until he found a steady job and an adoptive family who took him in.
7 to 8 months after my adoption, I lost my family that I was living with during the mudslide.
Over 1,100 people died and 3,000 more lost their homes. Al-Haji was left with just a few dollars to his name. But he was desperate to do something to stop the deadly mudslides. In the decade before the tragedy, mudslides in Africa had already claimed thousands of lives.
One of the reasons that cause a mudslide is the vast amount of deforestation, because the roots helps to keep the soil firm.
Al-Haji began obsessively researching ways to stop deforestation. He found YouTube videos of entrepreneurs from around the world making biomass briquettes to replace wood and charcoal. He started saving money for an expensive mechanical extruder and perfecting his recipe.
Our formula is so outstanding that it can burn for like 4 hours. It emits lesser smoke.
He pitched his business idea at a Harvard competition in 2020 and won awards there and at the United Nations. And he recently landed new customers in Germany and the UK.
God show guti kandi frito yati I hangul kotia putia do boku kodente gode begin see road small.
But most people in Freetown still cook with wood.
You just can't walk up to somebody and be like, hey, this is new, this is different from what you've been using. So it's a bit tough, but we'll get there one day.
According to a study in the Philippines, 1 ton of biomass briquettes saves roughly 80 small trees. And that can add up. But preserving trees isn't enough.
Part of the solution.
Yvonne Aki Sawyer became mayor of Freetown by campaigning on a promise to plant 1 million trees by the end of 2022.
Freetown, the Tree Town, is replanting, which include reforestation of hills, reforestation of rivers along riverbeds, reforestation of green corridors or creation of green corridors to also address another challenge, heat stress. Our city's becoming so hot.
It was the 2017 mudslide that changed everything for her too.
I rushed up there and what I saw will be with me for the rest of my life. Literally a hole in the mountain. The rain was still pouring. People were crying, screaming. The devastating scenes continued through the day. 3 days of unprecedented rainfall.
She told us that Al-Haji's project makes her feel hopeful for the future.
The work that Al-Haji is doing is one of the ways in which you see the coming together of solutions for these multifaceted problem of sanitation and the environment. Everybody drinks coconuts. Everybody eats coconuts. I eat coconuts. I drink coconuts almost every day.